Mark, how are you?
Hiya gents, how are you?
Mark, what's the week been like?
Well, it's been a mixed week for sure. Started off with a fairly long travel back from France, and then obviously with the developments in the early part of the week, it's the mood has changed as the week's gone on, as you can imagine.
Did Toby's departure and you all been in total charge this week take you by surprise?
Oh yeah, 100%. Was really surprised when I got the call to have a discussion around what it might look like if I needed to take the role on, and the first thing that comes into your head is obviously Toby and where he sits in it and his emotions, because it's tough. He's given a lot to the region, and I don't need to speak about his record, speaks for itself. He's done a really good job, and I've really enjoyed my time working with him. So immediate thoughts were there. But then, of course, as soon as those thoughts pass through your brain, you think about, well, the people that are in front of you. Just think about the job you've got in your hands and the responsibility you've got to the badge. And we've slowly tried to turn our focus to the game, certainly from Tuesday lunchtime onwards.
How different has it been all of a sudden, head coach from a defence coach, just like that?
It's no different, really. It's added workload. It's doing press conferences like this. It's taking more of an eye on both sides of the ball. It's dealing with players around selection and feedback a little bit more than you would than just from your own area. So there's obviously changes to it, but your behaviour and your attitude and the way you treat people is exactly the same. So you're just transferring those skills. So I'm excited about the role. It's a good opportunity for me to experience something different, and I'm excited about the game this weekend.
And you knew you were going to be doing this just 6 months earlier than you expected.
Yeah, as I said, it's not a shock in that respect, because we knew there was a handover period and then there was a transition period, and that's been brought forward basically. And it was these things happen in professional sport. They happen at all different sports, different levels of sport. And I suppose, without giving it too much disrespect, these things are always in the back of your mind as a professional sportsman and a player. Things can get taken away from you very, very quickly through injury or selection as a player, and also through performance or lack of performance as a coach. So, we know this is in our line of work.
What were the 3 months like working with the knowledge that you had already with Toby this season, knowing that what the changes that were going to be made provisionally for the end of the season?
Oh, look, they were no different to last season. Both Toby and myself, if I was to give us any credit, we're professional people. We've got a good relationship. It made it easy. Our relationship is a strong one. It still is now. And I know he'll want us to do really well, this weekend initially. And then you want the Ospreys to thrive, because at the end of the day, he's a piece of him within the history of the club. So I know he'll be behind the boys on the weekend, and he'll be disappointed that he's not there, obviously, prowling the terraces. But all we can do as a playing group is represent his effort and time that he's given into the badge, and we'll do our very best on the weekend. And then obviously my job and the players moving forward is to try and grow and develop the environment to the next level, hopefully.
How have the players reacted?
Well, certainly in my time sharing, the pitch with them and sharing a couple of quiet moments, they've reacted like you'd expect. There's been a little moment of sort of contemplation around what it might mean for them individually, what it means to the team in the short term, and then obviously actually what they might need to pick up between now and the end of the year with us, not having Toby in the building, what's left the room, what skill sets he's left, and how that gets picked up by the group, because we need to replace a body at the end of the day.
How do you explain last weekend? It wasn't a typical Ospreys performance in the last few years.
No, you can't explain it simply. There was no one thing that was the problem. You have to credit Montpellier. They are the most dominant carrying team in the French top 14, which says, when you look at Exeter result on the weekend and you look at the sides and the quality of collision they have in that league, to stay there top of it is not a surprise. And we allowed them to use that collision dominance far too easily through a lack of ill discipline around our set piece, around our open field ruck on occasion, and really they took the game away from us in the first 30 minutes really. And then, like a lot of sides that chase the game, you force things, you make errors, and they punish you off the transition. So that's really what happened. But we know it wasn't us. We had a couple of those last year where the scoreboard got ugly. But I know that the response was often very, very strong from us, and we're expecting a response from our execution point of view around our level of detail. We know that we didn't bring that. It wasn't an emotional one. It was an accuracy issue that cost us, and we need to be more accurate this week.
You know this weekend's opposition very well. Is it the perfect opposition to have, a local derby at home, to be able to bounce back and also put behind what's happened off the field this week?
Oh, if I'm honest with you, the opposition's kind of irrelevant really in terms of our mindset, because it doesn't matter who you play. If you don't play to your level in this type of competition, the URC or the European competitions, you'll get found out. So we're looking internally here around our own process, around our execution, and our supporters and the players on game day will get themselves emotionally right for the occasion. It's a proud fixture that has been around for 20 plus years in the current badges, and obviously we know it goes deeper than that for those of us that are old enough to remember it. The history goes back a long way, and both teams will be aware of what's at stake, and we're a proud bunch, and we're excited about the opportunity for us to go up against a very, very good team.
Talk about history. Your first game as official Ospreys head coach is against somebody you know very well in Scarlets and Dwayne Peel. You go back, he said 30 years yesterday. Would that be about right? Yeah,
it's not far off. We sort of met each other in our late teens, so he's slightly younger than me, although he doesn't look it. Yeah, it's one of those things. In sport, you have good relationships with people in and around the game, but obviously we're professional men, and when it comes to game day on the weekend, we'll be focused 100% on giving our best for the badges that we represent.
What sort of head coach will you be, Matt?
Well, I'll be an honest one. That's all I can do. Is I'll be honest around my work ethic. I'll be honest around my feedback, positive and maybe not so positive with the players, and I'll be straight down the line. So that's all you can ever ask of anybody. The performance of myself will be built on that, and that's all I can say. I can't promise anything more than that in professional sport.
A final one for me, just a bit of housekeeping, Mark. You'll get used to these questions. Jack Morgan, Gareth Thomas and Owen Williams came off last week. How are they looking for this weekend?
Yeah, they're looking good. We had one eye on this week around some rotation of the squad, and we had an idea of some minutes that we'd like players to play during the Montpellier game. And obviously that was influenced a little bit around obviously the scoreboard at the time. When the scoreboard got to like it did at 50-60 minutes, you do have to start thinking about what's coming, and there was definitely some thought process around that from the coaches last week. And we left a few players behind as well, and we've got a couple coming back from injury, so there's been a little bit of everything in our selection this week, but we're hoping that those players will be around our match day this week.
A final one from me. They also came off early. Dewi Lake, how is he? Can I just check on his fitness, please? Yeah, we are just checking on Dewi. He's got a little bit more of an issue than perhaps the other players you mentioned earlier. He's being assessed this week, and we're just waiting to hear finally back on what that looks like for us. So we're going to leave that one go as long as we can, because obviously he's an important player to the group, and we'd love to have him around. But I honestly can't give you any positive feedback or negative feedback on that. I'm waiting to hear myself on the clarity. Sorry, just finally, but you haven't ruled him out completely this weekend?
No, I'd never rule anybody out until the educated people who understand these things, give me the results of scans and surgeons. So we're seeking some advice, and obviously once we get that, we'll respond alike.
Mark, what was it like being the defence coach and seeing your team concede 9 tries last weekend? Oh,
it's uncomfortable, isn't it? Because last year when we look at, other than probably 2 results, Leinster away and the Bulls away, our defence was in the top 4 in the league in terms of points conceded on average per game. We had 2 blowouts last year in the league, and it affected our tries conceded for the year. So it's painful. It's very painful, because it doesn't represent what the group's about in terms of the quality of it, the effort that they put in Monday to Friday, and usually every weekend. So it's painful, and obviously as the guy that's heading that area up, you feel responsible, and in part you are. So
I've been around long enough to know you're not defined by one-off games. You're defined by what you do over a body of work, and the body of work that this group has shown me since I've been here on the defensive side of the ball has been very, very good. And we've up until last weekend's game, we were actually ahead on tries conceded per game than we were last season. So we've been tracking okay. It can always be better, and it'll need to be better this week. And I'm confident it will be better. So it's a painful experience, but look, in sport you can't dwell on negative things. You have to move on to the next thing.
Yeah. So you might find a few Scarlets fans, I'm sure not the players, thinking, oh well, it's going to be an easy touch this weekend because they capitulated last weekend, or they got a soft underbelly now. Yeah. But there's that hard edge you just referred to is surely going to come back this weekend.
Look, the players will represent the shirt to the level that they expect of themselves and what the supporters expect. And certainly, I can only speak of my time in the environment. Other than, as I mentioned, those couple of fixtures last year, I think the supporters and the players can be proud of the effort and the physical appetite they've had for the collision side of the game. I have no doubt. Whatever the result this weekend, it won't be a lack of effort and it won't be a lack of desire that will dictate the result. That's a non-negotiable.
So how is your life going to change now? I mean, you're 3 days or 2 days into it, but how do you see your life changing, and how do you now have to evolve as a coach?
I don't see a change in at all in terms of when I come to work, the expectation level. Obviously, there'll be a little bit of a workload spike now with one coach down in the building. I'm really passionate about Justin finishing his playing career, not coming over to the coaching career early because of what's happened. It's really important to me that he stays in the playing role and also almost becomes the coach within the team. Because I want him to enjoy his last year as a player. I want him to give his best account of himself and remember the year positively. And at the end of the day, that guy still wants to win stuff like the rest of us. He wants us to get through in Europe. He wants us to get into the playoffs because it's still not halfway through the season. So we want him to experience the best possible season he can. So there'll be a bit of a workload spike, but in terms of day to day, nothing's going to change, mate. We're going to keep being who we are. I'll keep being who I am, and we are going to evolve the team. The same as any other coach, same as what it would have been if Toby was here. We always want to evolve the team, and I'll have my own ideas around that. But what we won't be doing is making wholesale changes now because of what's happened. We will grow the team, built on its strengths, and we'll add. And hopefully, the vision of the team will be an exciting one.
But you must have had a few doodles at home, thinking, well, when I take charge next season, this is what I'd like to do. This is how I'm going to set it out. Yeah. Do you bring those plans forward, or do you just say, I'm going to do the best I can this season and then start afresh next?
It'll be a mixture of both. You can't change the world in a day, so there'll be things that I think we can start to put in place straight away, but they'll be very simple things, very basic things. There won't be wholesale changes around it because the players will end up stuck between two stools if that's the case. So we're looking just to evolve it slowly, and hopefully over the course of the season we'll see some traits of that coming in positively. And then I think the time to sort of, if we decide to make changes, wholesale changes around certain things, the time will be to do that in the off season when we have time to plan it correctly, install it properly, and actually give the players an opportunity to absorb it.
Yeah, it's one of the terrible things about professional sport. People only remember your last game, don't they? You don't remember that you won the week before, and they don't remember you reached the quarterfinals last season. It's all about today or yesterday and tomorrow. But I mean, how do you see the second half of this season now? I mean, what are your aims the same as they were before? You mentioned there about playoffs, and we have a European final in Cardiff to aim at. I don't know if that's still on the radar, but what are your goals from here on in?
Yeah, both the two scenarios you talked around there. So the European one, we lost out in Montpellier last year, and it wasn't a great scoreline there either around that. We took a bit of a younger team there last year, and with a little bit less experience, but the boys battled hard, but we didn't get anything out of the game. So, and we still had a really, we ended up with a home last 16. So we don't see any of that changing at all. We've got Newcastle at home and Power away, and they'll define our European ambitions this year, and we'll worry about those in the new year. Around the league, probably up until the Zebra fixture, we had accumulated the same amount of league points off the corresponding fixtures last year, albeit they were away. So we know that it's not, that door's not closed. But we know the next 2 games will definitely shape what that looks like for us in terms of league playoffs.
Your body of work as a coach now is getting more and more impressive, and I guess you're now where you hoped you might be at some stage in your young coaching career, and you've made a lot of sacrifices to get to where you are.
Yeah, they are sacrifices, but it's what I love doing. It's my passion to when you can't play anymore, the closest thing you can get to playing is helping people who play. And the joy you get out of watching faces in the changing room as a coach off the back of a good win, when you feel like these guys are, it's the best moment in their life at that particular moment, is powerful. So I love coaching. I never thought I would as a young player. I developed it late, and it's a little bit of a drug, and even though you have those awful moments like last week where you really feel like nothing can get much worse from a job perspective. It's these moments where, the Lions 2 weeks ago, it's Sale at home last year in the European Cup, it's the Stormers home this year, it's the Stormers. Those things just keep getting you up in the morning because the highs outweigh the lows. And, around my journey, my coaching journey's been like that. There's been moments where I've had to search deep, around it, from a sacrifice point of view, driving to North Wales 4.5 hours up, 4.5 hours back, and doing, full day in between, you're getting home at midnight, you're not putting your kids into bed, those moments, it tests you whether you really do love it or whether you just like it. And the sacrifice the family have given, moving to New Zealand, that's been huge. But it's tested how much I like it, and I don't like it, I love it. So I'm looking forward to this role. I love the detail of being in one area, whether it's attack or defence. Now I've got to expand my horizons around it now, around looking at the game in more of a holistic perspective. I see my role now being very detailed in all those areas, but actually knitting it all together is my priority now, and that's going to be an exciting opportunity to grow my own personal development.
And finally, how much did you learn from your New Zealand experience, and how much of that is in your coaching now?
Oh, you learned a huge amount. I had a lot of confirmation there, so a lot of the stuff they did over there was stuff that I believed in over here and was using over here already. So that's awesome to think that your philosophy is aligned with some of the best players in the world and some of the best teams. But then there were also things that just completely changed my outlook on the game, and how they do things, and how they build culture and how they treat people. Seeing that, the relationship between the coach and a player, how that worked, how the senior players acted within an environment and a culture. So I've picked up a huge amount around my New Zealand experience, like I did in North Wales, working with players up there, what the challenges of that, working with semi-professional players. Some players were young. I've taken something from everywhere I've been, all the way back to when I went went from being a player to a coach overnight at the Scarlets. You just live in the technical and the tactical, whereas my other experiences have probably taught me more around relationships with players, how you treat people, so there's been a holistic approach to my coaching development, and not one area has taught me more than the other. It's just shaping me all the time. Coming here is shaping me right now. So yeah, it's a body of work that's going to go on probably as long as people feel like they want me in their environments.
Good. Well, look, you got battered and bruised as a player, but you get equally battered and bruised as a head coach. Yeah.
It's a bit easier to get out of bed in the morning as a coach, though, isn't it? You're not.
Well, there you go.
You can probably. It's like you say. It's a different bruise and battered. But I'm pretty positive around the environment I'm in here, and I haven't had many days like that since I've been in the Ospreys environment. I've been chomping to get through the front door, and nothing has changed.
Well done. Best of luck, fella.
Thanks, Rob.
Happy Christmas to you.
Yeah, and to you, mate. Have a great festive period if I don't see you.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Ben.
You missed out one place you coached 20 odd years ago.
I was still playing then, though. That was a side job. Can't tell the tax man about that.
But when you were stood on the grow 2 decades ago, did you ever sort of think this is where you'd end up one day?
No, I didn't. I was going there to have a break out of rehab with my injuries. I was going there to sort of try and support my local team, give a bit back to the team that sort of got me playing rugby and introduced me to the sport. Try to give a little bit back in my own way, and that led to coaching the team on a more regular basis, and then that's led to me really discovering a bit of a passion for coaching people. I hadn't really thought about it until I went up there, and although it was a completely different relationship because you're working with guys, you know, that have got their own jobs, doing farming to being an electrician to a builder, the face or the smilers on the faces was exactly the same as now. You know, they sit in the changing room after a game, after a great win, and they absolutely would rather be nowhere else. And I thought to myself, that's quite a powerful thing, and actually I quite like the feeling I'm getting from it. So that's what really got me the hunger to go into coaching. And obviously when the Scarlets offered it to me at the end of my career when I retired, you know, I didn't take a second hesitation in accepting because of those things, really.
And you mentioned obviously you're a body down in terms of the coaching staff, and you want Justin to carry on playing.
Yeah.
Is there any possibility of getting a short-term sort of body in to just end the season?
Yeah, I think we are looking at it because obviously things have happened so quickly. We've had 2 or 3 days to organise the week. The focus has been getting the team prepared to play this fixture. So, but obviously in my own mind, in a couple of quiet moments walking the dog, I have been thinking around what that workflow looks like, and we've got a responsibility as a management group to create the best environment for the players, give them all the tools that they need to perform, and obviously having hands on deck's really important. Hookie's come on board this year in a little bit more of a consistent role. He's had an impact around our kicking game and around the skill sets of the kickers, and actually, you know, preparing some opposition plays, etc. So there's been huge benefit from that. So we're looking at maybe some of the academy coaches and how they can possibly support the environment at certain times in the week. But if I'm honest with you, I've not got any deeper than thinking around it. But we will be adding support to the playing group. We're just not sure on what it looks like at the moment, if I'm honest.
Perfect. Well, best of luck on the weekend, Mark.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate that.
Hi, Mark. Simon here.
Hi, Si. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Just one from me. You obviously played under quite a few coaches during your playing career. Which are the ones that kind of had the most influence on you, and perhaps maybe just to an extent you've drawn on since you've gone into this role?
Oh, to single anybody out individually, it would be a disservice. Everybody's played a part, for various reasons. If I think around Gareth Jenkins and Nigel Davis, for example, they shaped me around how they treated people, you know, the respect they give an individual, around your off-field stuff, selection, getting you emotionally charged for a big fixture, you know, pulling that emotional connection out of you. And they obviously, from a playing philosophy, they had a very holistic view on how the game should be played. You know, they wanted to play exciting rugby, so I've always had that in my mind around, you know, that influence. If I think around some of the international coaches that have coached me, whether it's Graham Henry, Gats, Steve Hansen, all these types of guys, you know, huge detail around the game and areas of the game and how you build the game. And then if I bring it right forward to sort of, you know, my time and experience in New Zealand, working with the coaches that were there, Scott Robertson, you know, Scott Hansen, Andrew Goodman, these guys now, they're all coaching at international level now. And it's no surprise to me watching them operate and how they brought their style and their mix of character to the environments. I've taken something from all of them, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say to you, really, Si. And I've obviously got my own style, and I'm trying to make sure that with all this experience that you get, that actually you've got to be yourself, because if you try and be somebody else, the mask will slip and people will see right through you and you won't be genuine, because that's ultimately what I think staff and players want. They want you to be yourself, and I am my own person, and we'll do it our own way, and you know, hopefully that will be tempered with the experiences that I've had.
That's great. Well, good luck for the weekend and for the rest of the season, and your time in the Hell.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Sorry, Mark, just a quick one. With Dewi's injury, I know you haven't got a sort of time span,
yeah.
But where is the injury, I guess?
Yeah, he took a bump, purely an accidental bump in training. I think it was a knee or an elbow to his bicep. So just assessing what that looks like at the moment in terms of which part of the bicep and what might need to be done, if anything, to sort of get him in a position to play.